In the news this week, Gareth Lee wants to take the UK to court over Ashes, MPs seek to close a loophole on abuse by sports coaches, and a teenager says taking puberty blockers was the worst decision of her life. Hello. LGBT campaigner Gareth Lee is seeking to challenge the UK Supreme Court over its unanimous decision in favour of Ashes Baking Company. Mr. Lee wants the European Court of Human Rights to consider narrow aspects of the ruling. The Christian Institute, which has supported Ashes throughout, said the effort is unlikely to overturn the central aspect of the UK judgment. The Christian-run bakery turned down Mr. Lee's order for a same-sex marriage campaign cake in 2014. The taxpayer-funded Equality Commission for Northern Ireland pursued the family through the UK courts, but last October the highest court found in their favour. Colin Hart, the Christian Institute's director, said he was not overly concerned about the latest challenge.
I respect Mr. Lee's right to appeal, but I'm not losing any sleep over it. If it's wrong to compel a baker to say something they don't believe, it's just as wrong to compel a small family bakery to do so. People don't lose their fundamental freedoms just because they set up a family company, and that's where lawyers for Mr. Lee disagree. Some don't like the Ashes ruling. Let's pray they come round to see the great benefits that there are in the judgment for freedom of speech.
A loophole in the Sexual Offences Act, which allows sports coaches and religious leaders to have sexual relationships with young people, must be closed, MPs have said. The law protects those under the age of 18 from being abused by those in a position of trust, including 16 and 17-year-olds who are above the age of consent. While the law applies to teachers, social workers and police officers, it does not currently apply to sports coaches or church leaders. The Christian Institute has been calling on the government to close the loophole since 1999. Institute Deputy Director Kieran Kelly said, "It is high time the government took this obvious step to help protect vulnerable teenagers from sexual exploitation. It makes no sense that a teacher is subject to these rules, but a sports coach or a youth leader is not." One of the UK's best-known betting companies has been fined nearly £6 million over safeguarding failures. The Gambling Commission investigated problem gambling and money laundering issues at Ladbrokes between 2014 and 2017 and has now fined its owners GVC. It comes as a BBC documentary maker says sports betting is a one-way street which only works in the bookmaker's favour. Lloyd Griffith attempted to double £7,500 in 1 month through sports betting. However, he ended up with less than £4,500 and in one instance lost nearly £2,000 on one football match. Griffith said he hoped the programme would open people's eyes to the reality of gambling.
As more of us are enticed into the gambling world, more of us will suffer the dire consequences of addiction.
The bookies have won today over everyone. Look at all the people that are sticking on accumulators, that are chasing their bets. I spoke to a mate this morning that I work with, and he said he'd remortgaged his house. He'd remortgaged his house because his gambling addiction had got so bad. I mean, come on. I genuinely hope that this opens people's eyes, if not already open, to the fact that this is a one-way street.
And finally, a teenager who says puberty blockers were sold to her as a miracle cure has revealed they actually did nothing to solve her problems. Speaking to The Times, the anonymous child explained how she began taking the blockers aged 12 because she was unhappy as a girl. 4 years on, she says taking the drugs was the worst decision she ever made. The teen chose to speak out in order to help others, saying, "I was sold a miracle cure. They promised happiness with little evidence behind it." She has now stopped taking the blockers and will wait until she's 18 before deciding on a future course of action. Well, that's all for this week. For regular updates and information on all of our stories, plus much more, visit our website at christian.org.uk. Until next time, goodbye.